and welcome to Colombo Model United Nations 2021. I'm Anargi Jaikodi, your Secretary General, and I would first off like to start with congratulating you on your resilience, perseverance, and commitment to our conference. It is really appreciated while we make this conference better. This year's theme, Informed Action in Times of Crisis, we hope to provide you with a versatile platform through which a number of socio-economic and political issues can be debated on. Especially given the tumultuous period that we are living in, the chairs and I think it is best to have an all-inclusive topic that allows for the discussion of the pandemic through means of a newly inducted committee, World Health Organization, and extending onto social matters such as Black Lives Matter movement. Another addition to this year's conference is the introduction of UN's Committee of Drugs and Crime to foster fresh debate and enthusiasm. The EXCO has also been working to improve other facets of COMUN. In particular, we hope to cater to the novice faction and better support their journey this year by maintaining last year's addition to privatized delegate workshops. We have also made newer additions to community service this year in order to uphold the core principles of COMUN. It is a pleasure having you at our conference, and we hope COMUN this year will surpass all others. And now, without further ado, I introduce you to our EXCO.
Hi guys, my name is Caucuses and I'm the Under Secretary General for COMUN 2021. I'll be going through the basic points and motions and certain speeches that delegates would need in a typical Model United Nations conference, right? So firstly, I'll be going through the points. There are 4 main points that delegates would need. The point of information, the point of parliamentary inquiry, the point of personal privilege, and point of order. The point of parliamentary inquiry is a point that can be directed when posing a question to the delegate that's on the floor, right? Usually, points of information are used in speakers' lists. However, under the discretion of the head table, it can be used in resolution debate, moderated caucus speeches, and statements as well, right? Usually, when you're replying to a moderated caucus topic, you can do it in 2 ways. Either you're going to be doing it verbally or through chit form. However, the use of chit form is highly discouraged by the executive committee, as this simply portrays a lack of confidence. And make sure when you're portraying your POI, make sure your question is short and concise, and you're not necessarily giving a statement, but you're posing a question to the delegate that's on the floor. And POIs can be also used to direct it to the head table itself if you want to question certain things that are happening based on the content that's happening at a particular session or the proceedings that will take place at a particular session. Next, we'll be moving on to the point of parliamentary inquiry. The point of parliamentary inquiry is basically clarifying procedure with your chair. Usually, for example, if you want to figure out what's the voting results in order to pass a particular UN resolution, for example, if it's a 2/3 majority or if it's a simple majority, you can use the point of parliamentary inquiry and you can clarify this with your chair. Next is a point of order. A point of order is where you feel that, that the chairs have made a procedural error. For example, if your chairs feel that they have skipped a step, if the delegates feel that they have skipped a step, you can use a point of order, and you can appeal this to the chair, and it can be sorted between you and the chairs as well. Last would be the point of personal privilege. A point of personal privilege is usually brought out if you feel that if you have a personal discomfort. For example, if you want to use the washroom, or if you feel that another delegate in the house is inaudible. Next, I'll be moving on to 2 basic motions. First being motion to move into roll call. Motion to move into roll call is basically taking attendance. You're establishing your presence within the committee itself. Now, one thing to note here, right? There are two instances where you can represent a particular country. So you are either representing UN recognized nations, or you are representing territories, or if you are a representative of an organization. UN recognized nations say present and voting. Voting in the sense that they vote on UN resolutions, but they can vote on other points and motions, which is already given. However, if you are a representative or a UN, if you are not recognized as a country within the UN, or if you are a territory, you can either say present, which means you can't vote on UN resolutions, but you can vote on committee proceedings and points and other motions itself. Now I would like to move on to what are right to replies. There are 4 types of right to replies. Right to reply based on foreign policy violation, right to reply based on factual error, right to reply based on infringement of sovereignty, and an inherent right to reply. Firstly, right to reply based on foreign policy violation. The right to reply based on foreign policy violation can be brought out if you feel that the delegate of the floor has completely misrepresented the current government stance and completely contradicting what the government has in reality. For example, if you believe that, for example, if the nation of China, right, if the nation of China in the House advocates for military intervention in the Syrian peninsula, we see that's a foreign policy violation because of the fact that the nation of China in status quo practices a policy of military isolationism, which means they do not interfere in the other affairs of other countries militarily. So next will be right to reply based on factual error. This is brought out if you feel the delegate on the House has made a gross factual inaccuracy. Now we understand that certain delegates have slip of the tongues and there can be very, very minor factual errors, but that won't be accounted by the head table. So make sure that the factual error that you're bringing out is highly significant. Next will be the right to reply based on infringement of sovereignty. Right to reply based on infringement of sovereignty is basically the delegate on the floor's statements is completely violating the national integrity of your country. Basically, in the sense, if the statements of the delegate who is obtaining the floor has basically insulted your country, you can bring out the right to reply based on infringement of sovereignty and tell the chairs as to why that's an insult. Last would be the inherent right to reply. An inherent right to reply is for the accused delegate, right? So chairs can give sort of approximately a 30-second statement or an inherent right to reply to show as to why that right to reply brought by the delegate is null and void. And two things to note here, right? Firstly, when you are giving your right to reply, make sure you properly and explicitly substantiate your arguments to the chair so that the chair understands your point of view. However, if number two, if the chair feels that if the accused delegate's foreign policy is within line, there is no major factual inaccuracy, and there's no direct infringement of sovereignty, the delegate who brought up that specific right to reply, their marks would be cut down. So make sure it all comes down to research and how you articulate your arguments to the chair. Lastly, I would like to cover on what are statements. So statements are typically brought out when you want to debate on a certain point that has been brought up by a delegate, if you want to debate on a certain policy, or if you want to debate on certain solutions. This is normally where delegates can bring advantages and disadvantages of a particular policy, how it's going to affect in the long term, examples, so on and so forth. There's no given in this particular case. You all take this into account when attending practice debate 1. If you have any questions regarding procedure, do not hesitate to email us. We would gladly clarify any and all doubts that you all have. And I would like to move on to my colleague Krishanka Prabharan, the President of the General Assembly, to explain more about speakers list, moderate caucus speeches, and the foreign policy statement.
Hey guys, I'm Krishanka Prabharan and I'm the President of the General Assemblies for this year's COMUN. So I will be taking you through the speakers list speech, the moderated caucus, and your foreign policy statement. So in terms of your speakers list speech, what the chairs expect from you in terms of your speakers list speech is that it's sort of a 90-second statement during which you underline as to what exactly your country is doing in terms of the topic or what they plan to do in terms of the topic. So I will discuss this in length further on, but it is sort of a reiterated summarization of what your foreign policy statement is supposed to be. And moving on to your moderated caucus topic, which is essentially an aspect or a subtopic of your main conference topic. For example, if the topic is climate change as part of, let's say, the United Nations Environmental Program, your moderated caucus topic would be discussing the rising sea level in the Arctic Ocean. And that is essentially how a moderated caucus topic goes. Since this year's conference is virtual, we have decided to have pre-written moderated caucus topics as well, which you will be submitting prior to conference to your chairs or the specific emails allocated for your committees. And finally, you have your foreign policy statement, which is exactly like it sounds. It is what your country has done in the past, is currently doing, or plans to do in the future pertaining to the topic. It is your stance for conference that, if not followed, will ultimately lead to you violating your foreign policy. So the three questions that will be asked as part of your foreign policy statement will be: does your country support or condemn the topic at hand? What has your country done to support or to condemn the topic at hand? And what has your country planned to do in the future to support or condemn the topic at hand? So those will be the topics, those will be the questions that you plan to discuss within your foreign policy statement. And if that is, let's say, around 3 pages, you are supposed to sort of keep that concise and fit that into your speakers list speech, and make sure that you iterate it for your committee within 90 seconds. So that is what is expected as part of your speakers list speech as well. Do make sure that you add your references so that your chairs do have some sort of idea as to where exactly you've gotten your information from, and they know that it's reliable. But that's about it from me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Basit. I am the Vice President of the First General Assembly. This is Tanmay, who will be your chair of the First General Assembly, and here we have Danielle, your Vice Chair of the First General Assembly.
The First General Assembly aims to promote multilateral cooperation to address security threats under the UN Charter. The first practice debate assesses the effects of the militarization of space. Ever since the end of the Second World War, there has been a rapid advancement in technology, and as a result, a space race has emerged. While treaties such as the Outer Space Treaty and the Moon Treaty have been effective, more efforts need to be done. And in this General Assembly, we hope that delegates will be bringing out solutions on how we can reform these treaties and proceed in the future.
In reference to the second PD, we discussed the feasibility of establishing weapon-free zones with special emphasis on the Middle East. So while nearly all UN member states have acknowledged that the disarmament of nuclear weapons is fundamental for achieving international peace and security, nuclear weapon states, however, are reluctant to destroy their nuclear stockpiles for strategic or tactical purposes. This lack of commitment and adherence to the international nuclear non-proliferation regime hampers the ability of the international community to achieve complete and total disarmament, thereby imposing a threat to international peace and security. This topic is relatively basic and it can encourage novice delegates to strengthen their skills and engage in critical thinking, and can better facilitate the more advanced conference topic.
So, especially with regards to the conference topic itself essentially discusses the ramifications of foreign military intervention and the prospect of the necessity for a creation of an international adversary framework, right? We understand that with regards to certain previous case studies, such as the case study of Iraq and Libya and whatnot, there have been cases whereby which foreign military intervention was imposed, right? And we understand that all of these were not warranted and there was no necessity in the first place, right? Because most of them essentially claimed for the necessity for foreign military intervention under certain facts that have not essentially been clarified to the maximum level, right? So we tell you that with regards to certain factors such as this, certain legal principles such as R2P have not been followed through, and we understand that this is essentially important for essentially ensuring a future era of peace, right? So that's essentially why we essentially want delegates to focus upon the creation of an international adversary framework, because we believe that focusing on such means would essentially that is, with the discussion of certain legal principles such as R2P, international humanitarian law, international principles with regards to international law, and statements from the ICG and whatnot, all of that, we understand that they impose a lot of information that can be processed and that can be used and used for the development of an international adversary framework. Secondly, we believe that this is important because, one, it helps delegates foster critical thinking. Two, it essentially ensures that delegates are informed and well versed within the arena of J1 terminology and whatnot, right? So we expect delegates to have a level of information and critical thinking before they enter the committee, which is why we believe the first two PD topics are essentially quite basic in relative to the conference topic, right? So we understand that this can help novice delegates foster thinking. However, we do understand that with regards to conference topic, that conference topic as a whole is quite wide in terms of its scope, and so therefore we do expect certain leadership skills, and we understand that experienced delegates have to step up in terms of ensuring that they take lead and be assertive and whatnot, right? Because we ensure that this can help steer committee into a direction, and we're hoping that it is the right direction, and therefore we expect experienced delegates to step up. Right, thank you.
All right.
Good morning, delegates. My name is Danica. Alongside Shaheen and Nimit, we will be responsible for the operation of General Assembly 3.
When coming up with our topics, we really want to embody the ethos of this conference, informed action in times of crisis, and move away from recycling the usual General Assembly 3 topics. Hence, we decided our first PD topic should be discussing the ramifications of the COVID-19 pandemic with special emphasis on existing humanitarian crises. COVID-19 has brought a new scope to debate, especially in areas already in crisis. The main area we'll be focusing on this PD would be research. In order for delegates to stay ahead of committee, they would really have to dive deep into research to find solutions to such major problems. With that being said, I'll now pass it on to Nimeth, who will take you through PD2.
Hi guys, I'm Nimeth. I'll be the chair of GA3 and along with Shaheen, our vice president, and Danika, my co-chair. So the second practice debate topic that we've chosen has been happening for a very long time, and we believe that this needs to be addressed. So most of these indigenous groups all over the world, they face a lot of trouble, they face a lot of pain due to marginalization. So most of them are deprived of their fundamental human rights, such as the freedom of speech, and also they are being deprived of political representation. Most of them are not even allowed to vote. So we believe that this needs to be addressed, because this is happening in countries that we don't even believe that something like this is happening, such as the countries that we believe are first world, such as United States, Canada, Australia, and so on and so forth. So we as the chairs of GA3, we chose this topic in the context of conference, because we believe that this topic gives an incentive to the delegates, because this is a very broad topic, and so is the conference topic, and we believe that this gives the delegates an idea of how to research for such a broad topic, and will give them a better chance to perform well in context of debating in the conference topic. So with that, I pass it on to Shaheen, our vice president.
Hi everyone, my name is Shaheen and I'll be the Vice President of the General Assembly 3 at COMUN this year. With it may be the exacerbation of the Boko Haram attacks in northern DRC, food security issues in South Sudan, or even the African Republic refugee crisis. We're telling you that the problems in Africa have been long and have been also ignored by the world way too much. Having that said, this year at COMUN 2021, the General Assembly 3 will be discussing the internal conflicts that are currently occurring in the African continent. Ineffective conflict resolutions, massive aid shortfall, and global news silence has all contributed and made these crises much worse. It's now time for action, and that's what we hope to see from all delegates at the committee this year. Please note that each delegate would be required to send in 5 pre-moderate caucus topics a week before conference, in order for us to have a better understanding of what the delegates are going to bring up at debate. It's a very broad topic with a lot of time scheduled for speakers lists, moderated caucuses, and of course the final resolution of the committee. We are looking forward to encouraging all you delegates, and we'd like to inform you that this year, different to previous years, we're looking for a GA3 with a committee to be a balanced committee between novice, intermediate, and experienced delegates. Having that said, we wish you all the very best, and all 3 of us cannot wait to chair you. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you at the General Assembly 3 at COMUN 2021.
Hi, I'm Farhan Naushad, and these are my co-chairs, Mutahar and Seravi. So, for the UNADC, the delegate cohort that we expect are experienced delegates with technical grasps on topics. The first topic of the UNADC will be evaluating the effects of a weak judicial system. So this topic goes into the conversation about law and legal systems, which is quite a complicated discussion. Furthermore, the topics that will be covered will be transitional justice, truth councils, military governments, and a transition into a functioning country as a whole. As for what the UNADC is, it is a body under the United Nations Organization of Drugs and Crime, which is a body under the ECOSOC.
Hi guys, I'm Mutahar Nasir and I'm going to be the chair for the UNADC. So I'm going to talk about the second PD topic, which is going to be discussing the consequences of illicit financial flows on the rise of criminal financing. delegates, what we see, or rather what we expect from delegates, is the fact that we need the understanding delegates would need of criminal financing and what comes under it, right? For example, we could give examples of tax evasion, hawala systems, and so on and so forth. Moreover, delegates, what we want as chairs of the UNADC, or another aspect we are looking into, is the whole idea of cryptocurrency. We expect delegates to have extensive knowledge to as how digital currency is affecting businesses in the current world, with given everything happening, and how this is actually affecting flows that keep worsening it, right? So as a whole, what we're expecting is the delegates to look into deeper aspects of what exactly is happening and how these flows actually hamper an economy and what the consequences are. Over to Saravi.
Hi, my name is Saravi. So before I talk about the conference topic, I'm just going to talk about if there are novice delegates in our com. So our plan is, as Farhan said, we prefer if more experienced delegates come. But if there are novice delegates, we will be setting up a Google form and asking each of the delegates to enter their names, whether they are novice or whether they've done conferences before. And we'll be asking them what their main problems are and their concerns, and so then we can tackle it either at the second PD or before conference starts. So getting on to the conference topic, we'll be discussing measuring and assessing transnational organized crime in the East Asian region, with special emphasis on the transnational drug trade. We expect delegates to have a good understanding of both the structure and activity surrounding transnational organized crime in the East Asian region, but also we'd like them to have a good understanding of the regions connected to the East Asian region, so the Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, but also Afghanistan, Myanmar, and the United States. We expect the delegates to think also about the global impact of the East Asian transnational organized crime, the role of regulatory organizations, and the consequence of volatility in the region. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Priyadarshan Logeswaran, and here with me is Taidu Perez, and we will be your co-presidents for the WHO for COMUN 2021. For today, I will be going over the WHO's mandate and committee structure, so that you have an idea as to what we expect debate to be focused on. And I will also be going over the first and second practice debate topic, while Tadu here will be going over the conference topic and what we expect from US delegates. Moving on very quickly towards what we expect you to focus on in debate in terms of the mandate. The WHO's mandate is very simple. It focuses on directing and coordinating international health. This is in two very specific areas. One is in international public health. If I had to offer an example in terms of how you would develop worldwide healthcare systems. And the second aspect which the WHO focuses its work on is international public health policy. If I had to offer another example in terms of how you would deal with COVID-19, what policies would you use, such as lockdowns, for example, to deal with COVID-19. We expect delegates to focus their debate mainly on these two aspects and not stray away in terms of going into other committees' mandates. Moving on to the first PD topic, which is based on mental health crises in conflicted nations, with special emphasis on the Syrian civil war and the Sri Lankan civil war. From what we've seen, especially from the case studies that we provided, is that a lot of these conflicts lead to mental health crises that are often ignored. If I had to offer examples of how these conflicts lead to mental health crises, you can look at, for example, the PTSD that is caused by continuous violence and war within Syria, or in terms of the discrimination that exists against women in conflicted nations such as Syria, that often leads to a long-term impact on their mental health. We expect delegates to understand that mental health crises are not this straightforward crisis like COVID-19 that has one mechanism that will completely solve the crisis, such as a vaccine. There are multiple underlying problems that cause mental health crises, such as the social concerns, such as, for example, psychological concerns, and many more complex factors that are hard to pin down and vary from country to country. So therefore, we expect delegates to come up with innovative solutions in terms of cognitive behavioral therapy, in terms of the international public health aspect that we spoke of earlier, in terms of addressing PTSD. And in terms of the international public health policy aspect, how the WHO could effectively deploy health workers in conflicted nations to address issues such as PTSD. Moving on to the second PD topic, which is based on AI and robotics in medical surgery and the implications of such forthcoming technologies in revolutionizing the health sphere. We expect delegates to mainly focus their debate on two very wide-ranging areas on this one. The first area being how would AI and robotics change the health sphere? How would the forthcoming technologies change the entire landscape of how healthcare would work in the future? If I'd offer to you two examples, AI would be used in terms of predictive modeling, using big data, for example, from COVID-19 and predicting how COVID-19 could spread. In terms of surgeries, how could AI be used in using data from the past and passing it on to the robotics such that it improves on surgery processes and makes them more efficient? That is the first main aspect that we expect delegates to focus their debate on. And the second aspect is the social, legal and ethical concerns associated with the use of such technology. Because with AI and with the use of such AI in surgeries, who would take accountability if AI and robotics were to mess up? Would the doctors take accountability? That's one question we expect delegates to answer. And another aspect in terms of the social concerns, how would you effectively distribute such expensive technology all around the world, given that AI is extremely expensive at this point in time? This is the first and second PD topic for the delegates watching from home. Over to Thayan to speak about the conference topic.
As per the conference topic this year at COMUN 2021, as a committee we focused on global pandemics. We've understood that there's been sufficient amount of debate and argumentation on COVID-19 itself, and that is exactly why we did not restrict the topic just to COVID-19. Furthermore, we also believe that seeing the past few decades, pandemics has been a major concern throughout the world today. Thus, we believe that discussing the importance of pandemics and how countries respond to it and following a post-match scenario is quite key for the functioning of an economy for any country. And it's exactly why we want to focus on this topic. Furthermore, as chairs, we also believe that delegates are most welcome to open debate into other avenues. As you can see, say with regards to past pandemics such as the SARS virus, the Ebola virus, we also encourage if delegates can focus on these areas, because we feel that these are some dire problems that have been pertaining from a while now, and thus we believe that as the World Health Organization this year we want to talk about how we can fight pandemics as a whole collectively. Moreover, the conference topic also talks about global resilience and support in today's world. So through this we want delegates to bring out and show us how exactly as countries and communities, how can we actually balance the entire scenario? How can we still have, say, companies and economies functioning with the pandemic around? How exactly can we strike a balance and still ensure that there's economic progress in a country? And these are a few avenues that we want delegates in the World Health Organization this year to bring about. Furthermore, with regards to the type of delegates we expect as chairs, we're looking into more delegates that are well experienced, because we believe that there are a couple of technical avenues or technicalities within the topic at hand. However, we also believe that the study guide is also a great platform for delegates, for any novice delegate especially, to walk into the World Health Organization and still have their per se of debate, knowledge and experience. Thus, we believe that we strongly recommend as chairs for all delegates to go to the study guide to ensure that there's sufficient amount of progress and understanding on their behalf on how exactly they can progress on the topic. Furthermore, lastly, with regards to the type of judgment we have as chairs, which is something a key important avenue in debate, is the fact that we believe that a potential or a competitive delegate at the World Health Organization needs to have a balance of innovative solutions and strong argumentation. And we also believe that all delegates need to have the idea of diplomacy and debate, and needs to bring this forth in such a unique way that we understand that all delegates are award potential. And this is more or less a small criteria to how exactly we as chairs would identify the most competitive delegates at the World Health Organization. As for this being said, we once again recommend all delegates to go through the study guide very well, and we shall see you guys at the practice debate 1. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thinula Karnaratna. I am the co-president of the Economic and Social Council for COMUN 2021. ECOSOC this year expects the delegates to be adequately experienced and have adequate knowledge about certain economic terms so that they can be well versed when it comes to debate. The Economic and Social Council in general has 5 regional bodies, right? It consists of the United Nations Economic and Social Council for the Asia Pacific, and then it has a body for Latin America, it has a body for the Caribbean region as well, and so on and so forth. For practice debate 1, we've chosen the topic discussing the issue of neocolonialism with special emphasis on predatory lending. After World War II, there has been a decrease in importance given to concepts like colonialism and imperialism, right? This is because of the multiple treaties and the multiple organizations that are there in place to actually protect the sovereignty of the multiple nations that exist in the world. For example, the United Nations, under its United Nations Charter, strives to protect the sovereignty of the many nations that are in existence, right? And therefore, developed countries and more wealthy or better off countries have figured out a new way of impacting or influencing the activities in developing nations, right? For example, to name a few countries, countries such as the nation of China and the United States of America has been accused of influencing the sovereign activities of smaller developing nations, right? A name that comes into account when we talk about the topic of neocolonialism is China's Belt and Road Initiative, right? So therefore, we as the chairs of the Economic and Social Council expect the delegates to research on areas such as the Belt and Road Initiative, on areas such as the United States of America's Blue Dot Network and how it will play out in a Biden administration that will come into effect following the inauguration on January 20th, right? In addition to that, we also expect the delegates to actually research on the impacts this has on developing nations, right? For example, the cultural influence that these developed nations will have on these developing nations and whatnot, right? And we believe that this topic is beneficial to be in discussion within the Economic and Social Council for a number of reasons. To name the first reason, we believe that we have given if we take a look at the country matrix of the Economic and Social Council, we've given equal representation to African countries, to Asian countries, and to developed nations such as China and USA, right? And we believe that equal representation will foster good debate. And ECOSOC this year will strive to maintain a balance between diplomacy and aggressive debate, because we believe that is essential for MUN in general and for the development of MUN in the future.
As we focus on the second topic for our practice debate, we understand that the topic is the question of regulating the usage of cryptocurrencies. And as the chairs of ECOSOC, we want to tell you that the reason why we chose this topic and the reason why it's relevant today, which is what I'll be explaining. So first of all, a cryptocurrency is a virtual or digital currency that is secured by cryptography. Now, first of all, what we must understand is that the chairs and I, while choosing this topic, we recognize the fault that cryptocurrencies have. When the topic of cryptocurrencies has been brought up, it's usually Bitcoin that's been the topic of discussion. We want delegates to know that they shouldn't limit debate to just Bitcoin. There are other Bitcoins such as Ethereum or Ripple, which we would like being brought into debate whilst we discuss feasible solutions and whatnot. Moving on, I'd also like to focus on why we chose a topic. So firstly, we mainly chose a topic because my chairs and I decided that throughout the introduction of cryptocurrencies from 2008, it's had significant problems as well as significant progress as well as significant problems. So what we must do to solve these problems, we want delegates to come up with feasible solutions to problems such as money laundering, which we've identified as a pertinent problem when it comes to the discussion of cryptocurrencies. So we want delegates to go all out when coming to discussions and using their foreign currency to essentially negotiate terms which will help the betterment of cryptocurrencies, because my chairs and I felt that the discussion of cryptocurrencies is very important in our future today.
Based on how it's relevant in times today, we recognize that because we are going through a pandemic, we want to understand how cryptocurrencies as means of wireless payment can help in terms of social distancing and whatnot. And that makes me move on to problems such as a country's national cryptocurrency as well. We want to see what delegates' own foreign policies are like. And considering the fact that almost every nation has stated their own opinion on such cryptocurrencies, we recognize that all delegates in committee will be able to partake in this debate and will be able to speak up and be all-rounded in this topic. So we want to see certain solutions based on your foreign policies. We want you to have a basic understanding of economics, since the topic is entirely related on law and regulation as well as economics. So we want to make sure that the topic of cryptocurrencies is covered by all aspects. So thank you.
Hi there, my name is Shevan Vikramasinghe and I am the co-president of ECOSOC, and I'm going to provide you with a brief overview of the conference topic. So the topic reads, discussing global sustainable recovery from COVID-19. Now, as we all know, COVID-19 has had detrimental effects on economies across the world. We're going to be discussing a plethora of mechanisms to help these countries get out of this situation. And the best part is that we're essentially going to have to test the current solutions that have been put into place, because the fact of the matter is that they're so new and they're still at a point of contention. The bright part about this conference topic is the fact that it tests the delegates' ability to be creative, their ability to use their past knowledge and the knowledge that they have gained throughout committee to create an absolutely amazing resolution. Another thing about this topic is the fact that it tests every single delegate, right? We understand that it affects every single nation in the world, and the best part about it is that everyone gets a chance to talk and everyone is going to be involved in this topic. This topic has affected nations in Latin America, the European Union, the ASEAN community, Africa, and many more. So the topic is extremely easy to understand, and most of the information is within the study guide itself. If there are more questions regarding the topic, then the chairs of the ECOSOC are more than willing to answer anything through email or via whatever social media. So happy researching. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Teshan Dasanayaka and I am the co-president of the Security Council. My president is unable to join us today due to unforeseen circumstances, but I'll be giving you a brief overview of what the Security Council will look like during COMUN. Start off, we'll be having PD1, which is essentially discussing the efficiency and need for revitalization of the global anti-terrorism effort, with special emphasis on the Middle East, right? The reason we've chosen this topic is because it's a very pressing issue in the 21st century as of right now, considering how the growing terrorism effort with regard to COVID-19 has been a major issue, right? We understand that there's growing ISIS numbers and there are mass protests going on in the Middle East as of right now because of the opportunistic terrorist organizations that are sort of using COVID-19 as a way to gain support on their side. We want delegates to sort of analyze humanitarian efforts and sort of methods that can be taken to preventing and sort of dealing with issues that come with these terrorist organizations in the Middle East. To move on with PD2, which the topic we've chosen is discussing the security ramifications by intelligence agencies and addressing the issues of accountability and prosecution, right? The topic itself is pretty straightforward, but what we expect from delegates is to essentially understand what the restrictions that have been placed on intelligence agencies are, to think of examples and sort of come up with information about how intelligence agencies might have violated these sort of principles set forward for them, and the sort of effect that they've had on terrorist organizations and etc. Basically, to discuss the conference topic, which is discussing the situation in Jammu Kashmir. Firstly, the reason we've chosen this topic is because there is a vast array of information and sort of argument that can be brought up during committee in the Security Council itself, right? Considering how the Security Council is responsible for passing numerous resolutions and claiming many actions to solve this issue, right? That's exactly why we've had the past two PD1 and 2 topics regarding intelligence agencies and counterterrorism, because we understand that those issues are also related to the issue at hand as of right now, right? We want delegates to sort of come up with any sort of bilateral and multilateral agreements that can be brought up within the Security Council and during conference itself, so that we can better and more or less improve debate, and therefore that's why we've sort of selected this topic. The Security Council will be expecting nothing but the most elite delegates from each school. This is simply because of the caliber of the topics that we've selected and how much information has to be brought out by each delegate to sort of be marked up. We understand that these topics are extremely difficult and we expect nothing but the best from every school. Secondly, the reason Security Council is different this year is because we have chosen a very diverse set of topics that relate to every committee, right? We understand that COVID-19, issues of counterterrorism, weapons, research, intelligence agencies, and the Jammu Kashmir conflict in itself relates to almost every committee that is being simulated in COMUN 2021, right? And it's for that very reason that we've decided on these topics, and therefore we hope that every school sends their best delegates for Security Council. Good luck.
Hi guys, my name is Nathan and I'm the head of IPC, and next to me is Savindra, who will be my deputy head. The International Press Committee will consist of journalists representing certain news agencies who will place themselves in each committee and report on the debate in the form of an article or an editorial. The establishment of this platform is important, seeing how it allows delegates whose strengths lie in writing and analyzing discussion to show their talents and learn more on how to enhance these skills further. This allows the EXCO to host for a more diverse and inclusive conference in terms of delegate skills. During the conference, IPC delegates will be expected to submit one article or editorial consisting of at least 750 to 850 words at the end of each of their practice debates. They will be marked based on criteria such as whether they have correctly described the simulation through their writing styles while including their respective news agency biases, thereby effectively reporting on the topics discussed for each committee.
Hello everyone, I'm Savindra Mudadania, and in addition to the articles, journalists will also be asked to submit editorials, and this format can be found out on the official IPC study guide in the COMUN website. With regards to the conference, delegates will submit one article on day one, an editorial on the second day, and group article on the third. The group article will consist of journalists that are grouped according to their news agencies who will be asked to write a piece together. Considering awards, we have decided on the following categories, namely Best Journalist, Higher Commendation, Honorary Mention, and Best News Agency. In regards to the changes we've made to IPC this year, we have introduced the group articles to replace last year's Twitter scheme that was implemented on the third day of the conference. The goal here is to make the third day more challenging for IPC delegates, since it will make them work as a collective on the same article. This means they will need to integrate their individual opinions, points of view, and writing styles in the same article. We've also tried to further diversify the number of news agencies present this year and have added new ones such as Sputnik and the Times of India and so on. This allows numerous country biases to be present through the course of the conference and will provide IPC delegates with the opportunity to represent these biases.
Hi everyone, I'm Tehani Chandrasena and I'm the head of administration.
And guys, I'm Junaid Ashraf and I'm the co-head of administration.
So first off, I'll be talking to you about the dress code. So for the practice debates, essentially it will be smart casual. So for girls that would mean shirt and probably jeans, and for guys pants and a shirt as well. And then for the conference it would be formal. So on the first 2 days of the conference it would ideally mean for the girls a skirt and a top or pants, and for the guys it would be a shirt and pants. But for the last day you have the option to go traditional. So that would mean sari for the girls, and for the guys the same as usual.
So some dates to remember would include the first PD being on the 30th of January and the second PD on the 20th of Feb. Conference would be from 6 to 8 of March, and the administrative fees would be 2,000 rupees, the delegate fees 2,500, and the school registration would be 3,000 rupees. So how an admin applicant would basically work is schools would send in their potential admins and we would run them through an interview and question process and select 6 to 8 admins that will be helping us out with logistics and setting up our computers for the conference.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
This year for COMUN 2020, we will be hosting our delegate training sessions online. So throughout the session, the first thing that I will be discussing is basically the procedure of MU in itself. I'll be discussing the right to replies, points of information, and essentially just how a conference would play out. In addition, when it comes to teaching delegates exactly how to go about practice debates and how to go about conferences when it comes to the speakers list speeches and speaking on moderated caucus topics and statements etc. Because what we have discussed is that for a conference to run smoothly, delegates need to be able to know all the procedure and need to be able to speak confidently for there to be a heavy contribution going in through every single delegate in the conference. In addition to this, I will be discussing how to write a foreign policy statement and how to go about the structure of a foreign policy statement as a whole when it comes to their country's stance, solutions, and extra information. I would also be discussing how to go about resolution debate and how exactly a delegate should contribute to a resolution debate. I will be discussing how they have to go about unmoderated caucus sessions and exactly how they can speak throughout this section of debate. So please do contact any of the Secretariat members to enroll your school into a delegate training session to ensure that every single delegate is fully prepared for what the conference holds. Thank you.